Hey, what's up, YouTube? I am making a video on indie game development today and what it means to be an indie game developer and why I would love to be an indie game developer as a career, as my passion. Um, and uh, and yeah, so for those of you who watch my channel, this may or may not interest you, but I know that I'm always scouring the YouTube videos for other people that are doing indie game development, and there's no one that I know of that is doing the kind of not many people are doing sports games. I mean, we have the Access Football, Canadian football, and Cal Anderson's game, but football history. But in terms of like pixel art type game, there's not much out there that's you know at least for the sports genre. But there are a lot of other games like RPG type games, side-scrolling games, adventure games. You name it, they're all out there. But I'm always fascinated with the people that were able to change careers and switch jobs and basically say, you know what, I'm going to give indie game development a go and I'm going to make the game I always wanted to make, or make a game that is at least a game that can be successful, that they could sell, that may make them some money. I mean, it's hard to make a living as an indie game developer, and there's a lot of work and a lot of the business side and marketing that goes into it. Um, Making a game is not just having a good quality game. It's also making sure that the game is seen by people and you create a following. I mean, there are plenty of stories of people that have really, really good games, but because they don't have any audience, they don't do well. They're not successful. And that's just as important, maybe even more important than the game being a quality game. So anyways, so this video is about how I became an indie game developer, and you know why I would love to do this for a living, and why I feel like it's my passion. Um, so ever since I was a young kid, and I'm not going to bore you with all this young kid stuff, but like a lot of us, since we were kids, we've been playing games. I've always loved video games, and I grew up in the best era in the 80s where there was Atari, Nintendo, the Macintosh 2, 2E. There were arcades, man. Arcades used to be the best, man. You go to the arcade and your friends go with you, your mom drops you guys off, or however you get there on your bikes, and you used to just have a roll of quarters and you only had so many, and or tokens or whatever, and you get on the games, man. You have competitions. There are fighting games. People that would be in line, people that would be around the games, around the actual machines, like an audience just watching you beat a high score, or you know play and not get beat, be unbeatable, right, in a game. And um and it was awesome, man. The arcades were just something that you just couldn't have anywhere. You couldn't have them at home, and you just died to go play. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have, the things that are in front of us every day now. The NES was like the first game machine, and I got the NES. It was probably like a year after it came out. I didn't get it right away, but I used to play Super Mario Brothers and Mario Brothers in summer camp. They had an arcade that we would go to after summer camp. It was like an after school program, and all we used to do was play video games. It was the best. And then when I finally got the NES, it was like, oh my god, heaven, with Super Mario at home. How could this even be? The game played awesome. Duck Hunt was blah. It was okay. And then Gyromite, that game was pure trash, but we always wanted it to be something cool. And it's funny because that system was like the first real system that got me going crazy for games. I mean, I always loved them, and Atari I liked, and the other ones I mentioned I liked, and ColecoVision and all that. But then when the Nintendo came out, it just blew the doors off because it was like arcade games, not arcade graphics, but you felt like you had a piece of the arcade in your house. And man, when Zelda was out, I used to go to bed on a school night. There were a few times where I would go to bed and I was so into Zelda with my maps and Nintendo Power and all that, and I would sit there and map out everything, and my parents would say, okay, it's time to go to bed, and I would pretend like I was going to bed, and then I'd wait for everybody to go to sleep, and then I'd wake up and I'd sit there in the dark and just play it all night. And then 1 hour goes by, then another hour, and then before you know it, it's like 2 hours until you got to get up, and you're like, you better go to bed. And I had 1 or 2 nights where I just stayed up through the whole night, and it was just, I mean, I remember those days, and it was just wild because I love video games. I always loved video games, and I always wanted the Neo Geo when it came out, and I had the Genesis and the Super Nintendo and all that, but Neo Geo was way, way too expensive. It was like through the roof. Nobody could afford a Neo Geo that I knew. Nobody. And Baseball Stars was the game to get. I loved Baseball Stars. And one game in the arcade was Tecmo Bowl, man. Tecmo Bowl was the bomb. When that game came out with the 2 dual screen monitors, I loved that game. So, and ever since then, I mean, every system that would ever come out, whether it be Nintendo or PlayStation or Genesis or Dreamcast, I mean, I was there like day one buying it. The Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 is a phenomenal system, man. The 3D graphics on that game, the way it blew the doors down. Mario World was just absolutely amazing. I love that game. The controller that they made, I mean, they were the ones that really were the pioneers with the controller. And, Dreamcast took a lot from them, I think. And the Dreamcast was a phenomenal system. I still got a Dreamcast sitting right here. I got 2 of them. I don't know what just dropped, but I got 2 of these bastards, man. Check this out. I got like the sports edition here. This one is just awesome. And I have the high definition cable, and this system is great, right? I mean, you look at NFL, you look at NFL 2K. This is 2K1, but NFL 2K, man, I mean, this game was just priceless. The way the NFL did it, and well, anyways, not the NFL, the way that Sega Dreamcast and Visual Concepts, the way they made that game, and we all know about NFL 2K. It was pretty much the game that became ESPN 2K football, right? But I mean, all those systems, and I would always go the first day and try to get one, and and I would play every single game. I used to love Nintendo, and I still love Nintendo. I had just bought a Switch, but I just don't have time for it, so I ended up bringing it back because my kid was just destroying it. And but the Nintendo Switch is a cool system. I just don't have as much time as I used to, especially now since I'm making a game. And I got NBA 2K now and Madden 18 because my son really wanted it bad. And that game's really no good at all. Just no good. Sorry, Madden. Sorry, EA. I wish you guys had a better game. I really do, but it's just not a good game, and it's sad. But I'm not going to get into that, right? We're not getting into that right now. The point is that I love games, man. I love games. My whole life was addicted to games. And then you go to college and you go to the corporate America and you start working and you start trying to get paid, right? And it's important, right? Money's important, trying to move up to that next level. And And I figured that, hey, I always loved computers. I always loved video games. Why not get into the IT field? And that's where I ended up, and that's where I've been my whole life. But even when I was in college, I wanted to go to Full Sail, and which is a school here in Orlando that teaches the arts. You know, they teach making games, whether you want to be an animator or a graphic design guy or a game engine guy or game design guy, whatever it might be, guy or girl. You know, that school was a very cool option at the time. It was very expensive, and it still is. And it wasn't your typical, it wasn't your conventional degree where you just go and you can take that to, you know, a regular company like IBM and say, yeah, I want to get a job. They'd laugh at you because it's not a real degree. It was like an Associates of Arts or something. And I mean, I guess it was an AA degree, but it just, unless you're going to work in the gaming industry, it didn't really mean that much from what I gathered. And so, you know, it just wasn't it wasn't the normal thing to do, right? But I always kicked myself for not going because I always wanted to go. And I've heard over time it's just a waste of money. You can learn things on your own. But the point is that I've always loved the video game industry, the video games. I worked at EA Sports as a QA tester for probably like 4 to 6 months. It wasn't very long, maybe like 6 months. And I was on the, my name's actually in NCAA 2004 if you look at the credits under the QA testers, which is kind of cool, right? But I tested the Tiger Woods game, the Madden '04 game with Michael Vick on the cover, and Madden '05 with Ray Lewis on the cover. And that's when ESPN 2K5 came out for $20. And we all thought, man, this game is crazy for coming out that cheap. But the hype in that building and all of the people who played Madden, they were all over NFL 2K. And it was this battle. It was like, what are you getting? No, what are you getting? And what are you going to get? And it was like, nah, that game's trash. And we're going to get this. And that's when you used to have competition. And you used to have fun. And you used to have arguments. And you used to be like, no, I'm going to get this game. And why is it better than the other game? And then you wait for the, you know, the game reviews from like the IGNs and the GameSpot. And man, those were good days. Those were such awesome days. But indie development really didn't exist back then. The only way you could make games back then was through a regular company, like a AAA company. Because to publish a game and sell a game, you had to have shelf space. Right? You had to go into GameStop and Babbage's and Electronics Boutique and, you know, KB Toys and all these different toy stores, and you used to pay for shelf space. You know, and I remember at EA Sports, we paid for space that was a specific date. And if you missed that date, it cost them millions of dollars, you know? So everything was ramped up towards trying to minimize risk and get this thing built, tested, stabilized, and pushed out into the jungle, you know, into the world, right? By that date. It had to be by that date. But being at EA opened my eyes to a culture that was just so different. The people there wore flip-flops and barely even took showers, some of these people. They worked night and day, weekends. They worked crazy, crazy hours, especially when it was crunch time. This was the old Tiburon right before they moved locations, but it's still a lot of the same. I've been there to test, you know, on occasion when they have people come in. I've been there to test, and I enjoyed it. But it's a corporation, you know, and they were really, I think a lot of game companies take advantage of people that love video games, and they work them really hard, you know, and then they churn them out, and they burn them out. They lay off a bunch of people, and then they bring them back in, and they lay off, and they bring back in. So it's this cycle of, you know, 1, 2, 3 year cycle of just rotating people. And this video is going longer than I probably expected it to go. So thanks for watching if you guys are still watching. But you know, I do long videos. I'm not here to just do the 5-minute videos. That's not my thing. I'm here just to share my thoughts and share my life and my experiences and my opinions on these games, right? Anyway, so I've rambled on. The bottom line is that I've always loved games. I've always tried to be in the gaming industry, and the game that I'm making right now is codenamed Football Stars. I'm not sure what the game's going to end up being called, but it's a football game where you're going to have 2D graphics and pixel art. And I'm a huge pixel art fan. I love pixel art. It brings me back to the old days. And, I know a lot of you guys who watch me, you probably obviously play 3D games. You play the Maddens, you play the ESPN, the All Pro Football. But I've also played a lot of PC games and indie games. There's a new game that just came out called Heat Signature by Tom Francis. I picked that one up. I want to see if I can jump in that and play that game. I mean, I'm sure it's going to do well. That guy, he made a game called Gunpoint. It's pretty cool. But he's one of the people that I watch. The same guy who made Spelunky. If you watch his videos, it's just amazing. These guys that like the guy who made Hyper Light Drifter, right? For those of you guys who follow this stuff. But and yeah, I'm wearing my Bills Color Rush jersey. I actually just got it. I've got the tags on. I just bought it. So I figured I'd show it tonight. Go Bills, man. We're gonna have a tough week this week. But yeah, so my dream is like, man, I don't want to work for corporate America. I don't want to just do the regular 9-to-5 job. I want to have my own business. I want to be able to do indie game development, and I want to try it. So I've been working on and off with Unity, Unreal Engine, and now GameMaker Studio, trying to learn and cut my teeth on these languages and these games, and I'm really excited to get something and complete a game that I'm passionate about. Not just some 2D side-scrolling game that I've done before that I just let go of, or some mobile game that was football related, but it really wasn't anything, it didn't really give me the motivation or the drive to try to complete it. I want a game, and I have right here, right in front of me. All right, sorry about that, but I have right in front of me the All Pro Football manual, because what I'm doing is I'm doing the same. I'm going to try to get like the same type of controls, right? The same buttons and controls. Not everything the same, but I'm going to try to get things that are very similar to All Pro Football, because that's the control scheme that I think works really well with football. Tapping the A button to sprint and holding it down to do a power move. Those are things I want to have in my game. And my dream would be for this game to be, very successful, and for me to be able to sell it and make enough money to keep going and try to make this a career, and make a change, right? So that's my goal. That's what I would love to do. And, that's basically how I've gotten into indie game development. So for all you guys out there that are interested in following your passion, I say follow your passion, man. Life is too short, and money's important. And if you can't afford to just go at it full time and throw yourself at your passion, at least go at it part time. And I've done things like the editors, like the All Pro Football editor, ESPN 2K4 editor, Backbreaker editor, the NFL Fever editor. That's as much complete as I can make it. I mean, those things were also a gateway for me to get into doing what I'm doing now, because I have a passion for games. I have a passion for modifying games and for making in my own games. It's just a matter of finding the time. And a lot of the game time that I used to have, where I used to sit down and play that Zelda, like I mentioned, or play a franchise in ESPN 2K or All Pro Football Season or whatever it might be, or NFL 2K. I used to play franchise after franchise in that game, and And now I've kind of switched some of that time, or a lot of that time, into the making of games and my YouTube channel, and just doing things that are still game related, but I'm not always able to just get my hands on the game. So this is my way of doing that. And I've also been, one thing I didn't mention is I've also been part of a couple of beta teams trying to help games like the Golf Club. When it first came out, the Golf Club, I was one of the beta testers on that game. And then I was also a beta tester for Damon Groh's game, which you guys know didn't really turn out to be what we wanted. But long story short is, you guys should find your passion and you should go after your passion. And I'm going to be doing a dev video very soon. I haven't really had a chance to talk about my game, and I'm going to be doing a video on the progress I've made. A tremendous amount of progress. It's not going to be complete for a long time. I'm really working on the foundation. Everything was rebuilt. I have a developer that's working with me now, and he's really, really, really good at GameMaker, and I'm learning a lot from him. So we've rebuilt the entire foundation, and stay tuned for an update on that. But with that, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. I'd love to hear your thoughts about whatever your passions are. And if you're an indie game developer or you want to be one day, go for it. Take online courses. Look at YouTube tutorials. Read. Hard work. It takes hard work to pay off, and I encourage everybody to do that. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and talk to you next time. Peace, peace, peace.